Good evening. Hopefully everybody had a good Turkey Day and lots to be thankful for. And if you're like me, then you're probably still full. All of my family came over on Thanksgiving, and then yesterday, my almost 2-year-old nephew was baptized right over there. And surprisingly, he didn't scream because the kid never isn't screaming. My brother had to give him ice cream at dinner on Thanksgiving to get him to be quiet, which I don't think is a very good parenting technique, but I kept my mouth shut. My mom, I don't think, did. But anyway, yesterday my family was here all day long, and so I'm really tired of seeing people. No, I'm kidding. I'm very happy to see you guys because you're not crying. 8 nieces and nephews. Yet, who's going to cry? Anyway. So on Friday, though, there I am trying to relax and, flipping through the channels, trying to find something to watch, and I've got to make a confession to you. I watched something that I shouldn't have. I landed on this, and I was like, I should turn this off. It's really inappropriate for me to be watching this. But I kept watching it all the way through the end. It was a soccer game. It was the U.S.-England game. But anyway, what a boring sport. Sorry to, you guys play soccer too, don't you? And they do. And anyway, 0-0, what a boring sport, right? Give me something American with really high numbers and with people getting beat up and stuff like that. So we made up for that by watching all the football games yesterday. I don't know that I was happy with the results of a lot of them, except the fact that Ohio State lost. That's a good thing. So, sorry. Not sorry. But anyway, I bet Father Brian O'Connor up there in Columbus was probably saying all sorts of ungodly, unpriestly things while he was watching that game, but that's between him and God. Anyway, so Advent, it's a new beginning, right? It's the beginning of the liturgical year, and it's a time whereby we prepare ourselves for the coming of Christ at Christmas. But really, it's a twofold coming. It's a twofold preparation because we prepare for Christ to come at Christmas, but we also prepare for him to come back at the end of time. And so we hear in the gospel, 2 men will be out in the field working, one will be taken, one will be left. And people that aren't Catholics sometimes look at that and they say, oh, that's the rapture. And the rapture is kind of it's a very not Catholic thing, the idea of the rapture. So we're not even going to talk about that because it's just kind of speculation as to what will happen, at the end of the world, at the end of time. Jesus tells us that only the Father knows the time and hour. He doesn't even know. So the thing that we want to take from that is what do we do to really prepare ourselves for the coming of Christ? How do we live our lives in ways that prepare ourselves for the coming of Christ? Advent is a really, really good time to go to confession, right? It doesn't mean that you should only go to confession in Advent or in Lent. As I've said many times, none of the great saints are in heaven because they went to confession just at penance services in Advent and Lent. But we'll have opportunities throughout Advent for confessions. We have 4 days a week that we hear confessions, and some of those Thursdays we'll have extra priests here to help us. But to make a good confession is really a good, holy way to prepare for the coming of Christ, right? Driving from Columbus, Ohio, south, there's this big billboard on I-71, and it says, if you died today, would you go to heaven? On the other side of it is the Ten Commandments. I might be wrong. Is the Ten Commandments going north or south? You know the billboard I'm talking about, though, right? Yeah. So if we were to die, would we go to heaven? That's kind of an awkward question to ask. That's kind of a weird question to ask. We don't have the concept of once saved, always saved. We don't have the concept of just saying, I know for a fact with certainty that I'll go to heaven. But it's an important question. Am I living my life in a way that if I were to die right now and stand before Jesus Christ for my judgment, would he say, come on in, or would he be disappointed? Would we have rejected his love? A good, maybe, litmus test to kind of see how we're living, to live our faith beyond just Sunday, to live our faith throughout the week. A really good litmus test is, do I go to Mass on holy days of obligation? Next week, December 8th, is the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. It's on a Thursday. It's a holy day of obligation, meaning the church tells us this is just as important as Sunday. We should come and worship God at this. And so we say, okay, well, I got stuff to do on Thursday, right? I got to work, or I got to go to school, or I got practice in the afternoon, or I got to drive the kids all over the place. So, okay, St. Clair on Wednesday night, we say, look, let's have Mass at 7 p.m. as a vigil, so there's that option. Yeah, I know it might take a little bit of doing. There's the option in the morning at 6:30 a.m. If, that's your only option, then that's the Mass you should go to. I don't like saying that Mass. I don't like getting up that early either. But anyway, there's that Mass. There's 9 a.m. normal daily Mass, and then there's again a 7 p.m. In Spanish. And it's okay if you come to the Spanish Mass, even if you don't speak Spanish. Father Michael goes to the Spanish Mass, and he doesn't speak Spanish. Actually, he says the Spanish Mass, and he doesn't speak Spanish. So, but yeah, to say, okay, I'm really serious and committed to living my faith. Do I go even on those days during the week, right? Am I doing more than just coming to Mass on Sunday? And really, if we think about it, it's going to Mass on a holy day of obligation isn't more than the bare minimum. It's still part of the bare minimum. And so we say, okay, I am called to live my life striving to do the will of God, and I mess up, and I make mistakes, and I need the mercy of God, and I go to confession, however often I need it. And then, do I strive to live my life each and every day according to the gospel? Or only when it's convenient, right? If we're really truly serious about preparing ourselves for the coming of Christ, if we're really truly serious about preparing ourselves for being present in His kingdom, then we have to do so much more than just simply show up. We have to actually desire to be holy. We have to actually desire to do His will. We have to actually desire and strive to be holy, to avoid sin, to grow in virtue. Do we consider ourselves virtuous? That's a good question to ponder. Could I be more virtuous? Am I honest? Right? Am I chaste? Do we live lives striving to be more and more like Jesus Christ? Advent is a time for us to kind of start over, right? New Year's, people make New Year's resolutions. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, go to the gym, and I'm not going to eat Chick-fil-A, and I'm going to do whatever else. And it's a good opportunity to make spiritual New Year's resolutions as well. But it's a month earlier than the new calendar year. So are we able to say, okay, I'm going to commit myself to this year going to confession at least once a month? I'm going to take my family. We're all going to go at least once a month to confession. Am I willing to say that, okay, I'm going to strive during this next year to do something more than just attending Mass on Sunday? That we're going to try to maybe attend Mass during the week. We're going to pray together as a family. We're going to say the Rosary. We're going to strive to do something. We're going to strive to help each other to become holier. Advent isn't just this time whereby we prepare ourselves for Christmas, where we, go and we set up the Christmas tree and we get the lights and decorations and all the stuff, and we worry about what we need to buy, right? And who needs to go shopping, and who wants what, and then what are we going to eat? And we've got to, lay out the menu, and it's got to be a menu to impress. So we got to think about all this stuff, right? And we put all sorts of effort into it. But are we putting the same amount of effort into our spiritual preparation? If we're not putting the same amount of spiritual preparation into preparing for Christmas as we are kind of for the secular celebration, we need to recalibrate that. We need to say, what is the real reason that I'm celebrating Christmas? Right? I'm celebrating that God became incarnate, that He took on flesh, that He became man, that He died for my sins. That's what I'm celebrating. I'm not celebrating a tree. I'm not celebrating a gift. Don't get me wrong, I like trees. I like Christmas trees. We went through this whole tree debacle this year because, I wanted the big 12-foot Christmas trees there, and we couldn't find any good live ones, and so we had to buy fake ones, but I didn't want fake, cheapy ones that didn't look good. And so we went and found there's this one company that, like, when I saw the price, I almost had a heart attack. And then there's another company that's called Costco, and they're very reasonable in everything. And it came in a 24-pack of 12-foot Christmas trees. And you got a free sample of it also beforehand. Anyway, but I put a lot of effort into making sure that our Christmas trees look good here in the church, just like maybe you do at home. But if I didn't put as much or more effort into actually trying to preach the gospel, to proclaim the good news, especially on Christmas Eve, when all the people are here that are only here once or twice a year, if I put less effort into that than I did into picking Christmas trees and decorations for the church, I would be a terrible priest. I would be a terrible pastor, and I would have totally missed the mark of what my job is. So too, if we, in our preparation for Christmas, are only focusing on the earthly elements, if we're only focusing on the commercial aspects, if we're only focusing on the material, and we're teaching our children to do the same, and we're not putting as much emphasis on the spiritual, and we're not really trying to prepare ourselves for Christ's coming by changing ourselves, then what do we need to change in our lives? Certainly, we can all do something simple, right? We can all find something simple in our lives to say, I'm going to change this to strive to prepare more and more for the coming of Christ. Again, like I said, whether it's coming to daily Mass one day a week, whether it's coming to adoration on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, whether it's coming in just any time during the week to just sit in the church in adoration without the Blessed Sacrament exposed, whether it's just an opportunity or a time for us to be able to pray as a family, to sit down and have dinner together. Find something little that you can do, something little that you can change in your life to start this new liturgical year. Something small that can then turn into something much bigger, right? We talk about creating habits, especially when we're talking about virtue. In virtue, we create habits by starting with something small, doing something little, right? If you don't pray every day, try to start praying for 30 seconds every day, and then up it to a minute, and then up it to 5 minutes. And then before you know it, you'll have it up to an hour. Maybe not an hour, maybe a half hour. But to be able to really enter into prayer, to be able to really strive to grow in holiness. Let's try to do that this Advent. So as we prepare ourselves for the coming of Christ at Christmas, but also for the coming of Christ at the end of time, let us acknowledge that we are indeed sinful, that we need His mercy, that He desires to forgive us. Let us avail ourselves regularly of the sacrament of confession. And let us ask that during this time of Advent, it may be an opportunity for us all to grow spiritually and for us to all grow together in holiness. Let us stand.